Hey, storytellers, readers, listeners. Welcome to an episode of I'll Read That, the show where your stories get heard. Whether you're an unpublished author, self-published independent, or just someone with a story to tell, this is going to be your place to shine. Each episode, I'm going to be reading your story out loud, giving it a voice, giving you guys a new platform, and most importantly, a chance to grow. You'll get feedback from listeners, other artists, and just in general creatives to help you sharpen and make your craft better and take that story to the next level. So if you've been waiting for someone to say, I'll read that, well, I think you found your place. Do me a favor, submit a copy of your story, like and subscribe, and let's grow this together. Don't forget that, if you have something worth sharing, please let me know. So today we're going to be going back to my story, and we're going to be continuing the saga of Toby. Chapter 4, Rescued and Rejected. The days following Toby's dangerous encounter were filled with a newfound sense of security. The little red collar with his name tag was a constant reminder of the safety and love he had found with Lily and her family. Each day, Toby's bond with Lily grew stronger. They played fetch in the garden, went on long walks, and snuggled up together during quiet evenings. Toby had never felt so happy and content. However, this sense of security that had enveloped Toby was soon tested in a way he hadn't anticipated. It was a chilly autumn morning, and Lily had gone to school. Toby was contentedly napping on his favorite spot by the window when he heard a faint, distressed sound coming from outside. His ears perked up, and he padded over to the window, peering out into the yard. At first, he saw nothing out of the ordinary. The garden was bathed in the soft light of the early morning sun, with leaves swirling gently in the breeze. But then, he heard the sound again, a series of faint, pitiful whimpers. Toby's curiosity was piqued, and he squeezed through the doggy door to investigate. As he ventured into the garden, the sound grew louder. Following the cries, Toby discovered a small, disheveled puppy, huddled near the back of the yard under a pile of leaves. The puppy was shivering and looked up at Toby with wide, scared eyes. Her fur was dirty and matted, and she was clearly hungry and exhausted. The little puppy looked up at Toby with wide, pleading eyes, her tiny body trembling beneath a pile of leaves that had become her makeshift shelter. She was a pitiful sight, her fur matted with dirt, her ribs visible through her thin frame. Toby could sense her fear, exhaustion, and hunger. But there was something deeper behind those scared eyes, something that spoke of a past filled with neglect and pain. Only a few weeks earlier, her life had been very different. Born among a litter of 7, she had come into the world on the side of the road just outside the city. The man who owned her mother was interested in their well-being. The man who owned her mother wasn't interested in their well-being. He was a breeder, not a caregiver, using his dogs for profit without a second thought to their health. Her mother was kept in a dirty cage, malnourished and overworked, forced to bear litter after litter. This little puppy was one of the many that he had carelessly bred, and from the moment she was born, she was nothing more than a dollar sign in his eyes. She had been the smallest of her litter, the runt, and even from the beginning she struggled. Her siblings, bigger and stronger, would push her aside when it came time to nurse, leaving her to fight for the little milk that was left. She quickly fell behind in size and strength, and it became clear that she wasn't going to be like the others. She was frail, weak, and despite her efforts, she couldn't compete with her healthier, more energetic brothers and sisters. When the time came for the breeder to sell the puppies, he packed them into a cardboard box and drove to a busy roadside corner. There he stood with a box full of squirming puppies, shouting to anyone who passed by, offering them for sale. People would stop occasionally, some out of curiosity, others with the genuine intention of taking home a new pet. Each time someone reached into the box, they would pass over the little runt, drawn instead to the more robust, lively puppies. One by one, her siblings were taken, held up with excitement, and carried away to the new homes. But she remained behind, unnoticed, cowering in the corner of the box. As the day wore on and her siblings were all gone, the man grew frustrated. No one wanted the runt. She was too small, too weak, and didn't have the same bright energy that made the other puppies desirable. By the time evening approached and the crowds had thinned, the man made a decision. He wasn't going to waste any more time trying to sell her. She wasn't worth the effort. Without a second thought, he left her behind. He didn't even glance back as he packed up his things and drove away. The puppy was alone now, left in a tattered cardboard box on the side of the road. With cars speeding by and no one to care for her, She was too small to understand what had happened, too young to know that she had been abandoned. All she knew was that she was alone and that something was terribly wrong. Hours passed as the sun dipped lower in the sky. The air grew colder and the puppy shivered, curling into a tight ball at the bottom of the box, her tiny body trembling with cold and fear. The world around her was loud and frightening, with a constant roar of traffic and the occasional distant voices of people passing by. But no one stopped. No one saw her. Then, as the evening turned into night and the first raindrops began to fall, at first the rain was a light drizzle, cold but bearable. The puppy tried to shelter herself by burrowing deeper into the corner of the box, but soon the rain intensified, coming down in heavy sheets. The box began to soak through the flimsy cardboard, no match for the downpour. The puppy's fur was quickly drenched, and she whimpered softly, too weak to cry out for long. As the rain continued, the cardboard box, already weak and soggy, began to collapse. Water pooled at the bottom, and the box sagged under the weight of the storm. With a sudden loud tear, the side of the box gave way, splitting open and dumping the puppy onto the cold, wet pavement. She was now completely exposed to the elements, her small body shivering uncontrollably as the rain soaked through her matted fur. She didn't know what to do. Her instincts told her to find warmth, to find shelter, but she was too weak to move more than a few steps at a time. With her tiny legs trembling beneath her, she crawled forward, the cold biting into her bones. The streets were empty, the world around her dark and unforgiving. She could barely see through the sheets of rain, but she kept moving, her paws slipping on the wet ground, her heart racing with fear. After what felt like hours of stumbling through the storm, she spotted something, a small hole in a wooden fence, barely big enough for her to squeeze through. Desperation gave her the strength to push forward, and she wriggled her way through the gap, finding herself in a quiet backyard. The rain still fell, but at least she was off the street. She stumbled forward, her legs giving out beneath her as she collapsed into a pile of leaves that had gathered in the corner of the yard. The leaves were damp, but they offered some small amount of warmth. She burrowed into them as best she could, her body exhausted and her stomach aching with hunger. She had no energy left to search for food, no strength left to cry out. All she could do was curl up in her little nest of leaves, her body growing weaker with each passing moment. Hours went by and the puppy remained hidden in the pile of leaves. She was too weak to move much, too exhausted to do anything but sleep. The hunger gnawed at her insides as her body grew thinner. Her once bright eyes had dulled, and she no longer had the strength to whimper. She was alone, forgotten, left to survive or perish on her own. And that's where Toby found her. Toby's heart ached at the sight. He approached the little puppy cautiously, trying to convey that he meant no harm. "It's okay," he seemed to say, with his gentle eyes and soft whimpers. "I'm here to help." The little puppy whimpered, her tiny body trembling. Toby nudged her gently with his nose and licked her face, trying to comfort her. The puppy's eyes softened a little, and she allowed Toby to help her stand. With careful, reassuring nudges, Toby guided her toward the house. Once they were safe inside the garden, Toby found a bowl of water and some leftover kibble that Lily's mother had left out for him. He nudged the bowl toward the little puppy, and she eagerly drank the water, her tiny body visibly relaxing with each sip. Toby watched the mix of relief and concern. He knew that Lily would be back from school soon, and he hoped she would be as kind and understanding as she had been with him. He wanted to help this new puppy, to give her the same love and care he had received. After the little puppy had drunk her fill and eaten a small portion of the kibble, Toby lay down beside her, keeping her warm with his body. He felt a deep sense of responsibility, wanting to protect and care for this vulnerable creature. Toby's feelings of responsibility toward the little puppy were rooted in his own past. He remembered what it was like to be alone, scared and vulnerable, just like this small pup. Not long ago he had been wandering the streets with no one to care for him, hungry and unsure if he would make it through another day. The kindness that Lily had shown him had been the first warmth he had felt in a long time, and now he felt compelled to pass that kindness on to another who needed it just as much as he once had. As he lay beside the tiny puppy, Toby's instincts told him that he was no longer the one in need of protection. He had found a home, a place where he was loved. But this little one, she reminded him of how fragile life could be when you were small and helpless. Her story, though unknown to him in full, echoed the same abandonment and struggle he had faced. It stirred something deep within him, an instinct not to just survive, but to help her survive too. Toby didn't fully understand why, but in that moment, lying next to her in the cold yard, he felt a connection, a bond that went beyond mere companionship. He felt a sense of purpose that had grown from his own journey, knowing that even in a world filled with danger and uncertainty, there was room for hope. Just as Lily had given him a second chance, he was determined to give this little puppy the same chance to help her find safety, warmth, and maybe even a home. For Toby, caring for her wasn't just about survival, it was about paying forward the love and protection he had been shown. He felt that in taking care of her, he was fulfilling a role that had once been fulfilled for him, giving him the strength and resolve to fight for her, just as someone had fought for him. When Lily returned home, she immediately noticed the two puppies in the garden. Her eyes widened with surprise and concern. "Toby, what's this?" she asked, kneeling down to examine the little stray. Toby barked softly, wagging his tail, and nuzzled the little puppy, trying to convey that she needed help. Lily's expression softened as she gently scooped up the small shivering pup. "Oh, you poor thing," she said, her voice filled with compassion. "We need to get you cleaned up and warm." She carried the little puppy inside, and Toby followed closely behind, his tail wagging in anxious anticipation. Lily's mother, who was in the kitchen, quickly took notice. "What happened?" she asked, looking at the two puppies with a mixture of concern and curiosity. Lily explained how she had found the puppy outside and how Toby had been trying to help. Her mother nodded, her expression thoughtful. "Well, we need to make sure she's checked out by a vet," she said. "But for now, let's get her cleaned up and fed." Lily set the little puppy down in a cozy corner with a soft blanket, while her mother prepared a warm bath. The little puppy shivered as Lily gently washed her, the warmth of the water bringing some comfort to her frail body. Toby watched with keen eyes, occasionally nuzzling the little puppy and offering comforting licks. After the bath, the puppy was wrapped in a soft towel and placed near a heater to warm up. Lily's mother prepared a meal for her, and the little puppy ate with a desperate hunger, her tiny body gradually regaining some strength. As the night went on, Lily and her mother took care of the little puppy. Giving her a name they decided on together, Tabitha. Lily carefully wrote Tabitha on a small tag and attached it to a new collar, fitting it snugly around the tiny puppy's neck. Toby looked on with interest, wagging his tail as if to celebrate Tabitha's new identity. But as evening approached, a subtle tension began to settle in. Lily's mother was concerned about adding another pet to their household. She had always been cautious about adopting animals, considering the challenges and the responsibilities involved. She gently explained to Lily that while they could help Tabitha in the short term, they needed to consider whether they could provide a permanent home for her. Lily's eyes widened with worry. "But can't we just turn her away? But we can't just turn her away," she protested. "She's been through so much, and Toby and I have already gotten so close to her." Her mother sighed, looking at Tabitha with sympathy. "I understand, Lily. It's a big commitment. We need to think about what's best for both Tabitha and our family." Lily felt a knot form in her stomach. The thought of losing Tabitha after all the effort to help her was heartbreaking. Toby looked up at Lily with concerning eyes. Sensing her distress, he patted over to Tabitha, nudging her gently, trying to offer comfort. As the evening wore on, Lily and her mother continued to discuss their options. They decided that Tabitha would stay with them for the night, and they would contact local shelters and rescue organizations the next day to explore potential options for finding her a permanent home. The decision was difficult, and Lily's heart ached with uncertainty. Toby curled up beside Tabitha, offering his warmth and support. He understood the importance of the situation, but also felt a sense of confusion. The new puppy had come into their life so suddenly, and now there was a chance she might leave just as quickly. In the quiet of the night, Lily lay in bed, her mind racing with thoughts about Tabitha and their future. She glanced over at Toby, who was lying beside Tabitha, his presence a reassuring anchor in the storm of emotions. Lily reached out and gently stroked Toby's fur, grateful for his unwavering support and the comfort he provided. That night, as Toby and Tabitha lay curled up together on the soft blanket, the house was filled with a mixture of hope and uncertainty. The gentle crackling of the fireplace provided a soothing backdrop to their uneasy dreams. Toby's presence was a source of warmth and security for Tabitha, and he remained vigilant, sensing her every tremble and adjusting his position to keep her close. The next morning dawned crisp and clear, with the first light of the day casting a golden hue over the garden. The air was cool and fresh, but inside the house, there was a palpable sense of urgency. Lily's concern for the tiny puppy, whom she had lovingly named Tabitha, weighed heavily on her mind. She couldn't bear the thought of leaving the little dog without a proper home or care. As the sun rose higher, casting long shadows across the garden where Tabitha had first been found, Lily and her mother sat down together to map out a plan. Determined to find a solution, Lily and her mother began contacting local shelters and rescue organizations. Lily carefully explained Tabitha's situation to each person she spoke with, describing how the small, vulnerable puppy had been found in such a fragile state. Some shelters were full, while others were unsure if they could accommodate such a young and delicate pup. The worry in Lily's voice was unmistakable. She didn't just want to find Tabitha a home, she wanted to find her a safe, loving environment where she would be cared for and cherished. Lily's mother, equally determined, reached out to friends and neighbors, hoping to find someone who might be able to offer Tabitha a place in their home. They sent messages, made calls, and even visited a few people who had expressed interest in adopting a dog. Every conversation was filled with hope, but also with a deep concern for finding the right match for the puppy who had already been through so much. As the day progressed, they didn't stop at shelters and neighbors alone. Lily's mother posted online, sharing Tabitha's story with the local pet rescue groups and animal lovers in their area. The response was heartening. Many people sent well wishes, offering tips and guidance on how to care for such a young puppy, while others shared their own stories of rescue and adoption, further inspiring Lily. Still, finding the right home felt like a daunting task. Throughout the process, Lily kept glancing at Tabitha, who was now nestled in a cozy corner of the living room, resting peacefully after her ordeal. The sight of the small puppy, so fragile yet full of potential, fueled Lily's determination. This wasn't just about finding any home, it was about finding their perfect home where Tabitha could thrive, just as Toby had done when Lily had brought him into their lives. By the afternoon, they had a few leads. Neighbors who had expressed genuine interest in local rescue organizations that specialize in placing vulnerable animals into foster care. Lily's heart fluttered with cautious optimism, but she knew the search was far from over. The decision had to be made with care and thoughtfulness, ensuring that Tabitha would never again have to face the cold, harsh realities of abandonment. Though the day had been long and full of phone calls and conversations, Lily was far from discouraged. Each step forward, no matter how small, felt like progress, and each kind word from those they reached out to strengthen her resolve. As evening fell and the golden light of the day began to fade, Lily sat beside Tabitha, gently stroking her fur. She knew that soon the right person or family would come forward, someone who would give Tabitha this love and security she desperately needed. Until then, Lily would continue to fight for her, just as she had for Toby. As the day was progressed, Toby stayed close to Tabitha, offering her companionship and comfort. He could sense the tension and worry in the house, and he did his best to reassure Tabitha with gentle nuzzles and playful barks. The bond between the two puppies had grown stronger over the short time they had spent together, and Toby was determined to help his new friend in any way he could. The search for a solution was more challenging than Lily and her mother had anticipated. Many shelters were already at capacity, and the waiting lists for foster homes were long. Lily's mother was disheartened by the lack of immediate options, but Lily's resolve only grew stronger. She couldn't bear the thought of Tabitha being left alone again. That evening, as Lily and her mother prepared a simple dinner, they continued to brainstorm possible solutions. Lily's mother suggested reaching out to a few animal rescue groups that specialize in finding homes for pets, while Lily took upon herself to create a flyer with Tabitha's photo and a description of her situation. They hoped that by spreading the word, they might find someone who would be able to offer Tabitha a loving home. As the evening passed, the search for a permanent home for Tabitha continued. The bond between Lily, Toby, and Tabitha grew stronger, and the little puppy slowly adjusted to her new surroundings. Toby remained by her side, offering his unwavering support and companionship. He sensed Tabitha's growing confidence and resilience, and he took pride in being a part of her journey. Over the next few days, the house buzzed with activity as Lily and her mother continued their search for the perfect home for Tabitha. Each day brought small glimmers of hope, friends offering advice, neighbors checking in, and even a few more responses to the flyers and posts that had been shared. Despite their efforts, nothing seemed to quite fit. Tabitha needed more than just a roof over her head. She needed a family who would love and care for her the way she deserved. Lily, in particular, felt a deep sense of responsibility to ensure Tabitha's future was bright. She had just been lucky enough to provide for Toby. Then one afternoon, as Lily returned from school, the phone rang. It was a call from a local animal rescue organization that had come across the flyer Lily and her mother had shared. The woman on the other end of the line introduced herself as Kathy and spoke with warmth and sincerity. She explained how the organization operated. They had a network of dedicated foster homes that could take in puppies like Tabitha, providing them with round the clock care, medical attention if needed, and love until a permanent family could be found. They also had regular adoption events where potential adopters could meet and interact with the animals. Lily's heart leapt with hope as she listened to the details. Kathy reassured her that the rescue team specialized in placing vulnerable animals into homes that matched their needs. They never rushed the process and prioritized finding the right family. Hearing this, Lily felt a sense of relief wash over her. For the first time in days, she felt like they were moving closer to giving Tabitha the future she deserved. After some discussion with her mom, they agreed that this could be the best path for Tabitha. The organization had experiences, resources, and a history of placing animals in safe, loving homes. It wasn't an easy decision for Lily, part of her wanted to keep Tabitha close, but she knew that fostering and adoption were her best chances for long-term happiness. The next morning, Kathy from the rescue organization called again with some exciting news. They had already lined up a meeting with a potential adopter who had seen Tabitha's picture on the rescue's website. The family had a gentle, older dog that had been looking for a young companion for their kids. The family had expressed interest in adopting a small, affectionate puppy, and Tabitha seemed to fit the bill perfectly. Lily and her mother were cautiously optimistic. It was still early in the process, but the thought of Tabitha finding a forever home filled them with hope. They arranged a time to meet the potential adopters later that week. Lily felt a mixture of excitement and nerves. She knew that giving Tabitha a loving home was what mattered most, but it was still hard to think about saying goodbye. As the days passed, the family continued to prepare Tabitha for her meeting, making sure she was comfortable and well fed. Toby, ever watchful and protective, stayed close by her side, and Lily couldn't help but feel a pang of emotion at the thought of the two dogs parting ways. But deep down, she knew that this was all part of the journey. Tabitha, like Toby, was destined for a special life filled with love, and soon that life might just begin. And that's the end of chapter 4. Thank you all for going along so far on this journey with me. And if you have a story to read, or just something that's been itching to get out there, or getting a fresh take on it, or a new read of it, I want to hear it. Send me those unpublished or self-published work to the email address in the description below, and you might be the next feature artist or author in an upcoming episode of I'll Read That. Let's build this community together where writers are helping writers, where every story has a shot at being heard. Don't forget, as always, please like, comment, and subscribe. Drop those thoughts in the comments because your feedback could help other writers grow. So, everybody out there, please keep writing. And remember, I'll read that.
I'll read that, a story to be told. Unpublished words, brave and bold. Chapter by chapter, you're not alone. Welcome to